So be you. Be yourself. No one can be you better than you can be yourself, so be the best you that you can possibly be. You've all heard this before, right? Be you, and it's absolutely true. The reason why when we hear it, it resonates with us because there's truth to it. And at the same time, what does it really mean to be you, to be ourselves? It seems very simple, but perhaps it's not always as simple because we're in this wonderful world where there's a lot of different energies going around confusing us about who we are. Not intentionally, I don't think. So I think sometimes when people hear the statement, we often talk in this community about being our unique selves. The way we think of how to be unique is in relation to other people. I am different than so-and-so. They're an extrovert and I'm an introvert. Or they had this background and I have a different background, or they have this anagram number and I have that anagram number. Those are sort of personality-based ways of, they look this way, I look that way. They're old, I'm young. There's all sorts of ways we differentiate and find our unique self in relationship to other people. What we find with mystics, we're in this theme of becoming mystics, is they are incredibly unique, but the way they just express their uniqueness, discover their uniqueness, to me it's a discovery process, is not through separating themselves from other people, but actually diving into the oneness. It's this wonderful paradox that the deeper we go into the oneness of all life, that which animates every one of us here, this vibration and frequency, we have to move away from our senses to start really sensing this oneness that we're all part of and that we're all beautiful emanations of, that the deeper we go into that mystical reality of the subtle energy fields and the causal realms, the non-dual realms, we actually become more unique. So the mystics of our time tended to not fit in to organizations or communities. They would still be part of a religion or a base, but they start to stick out a little bit. They can't do things the way everybody else does. They're nonconformists, but not in a sense of rebellion, not in a sense of, I don't like this anymore. They just can't help it. It just seems to be the nature of the infinite love intelligence of the universe that is in, through, and as all creation, yet never absorbed by the creation. This infinite love intelligence wants to express uniquely as each and every individual, and so therefore it is our calling to become that uniqueness. There's 7 billion people on the planet right now. That means there's 7 billion different soul prints. There's thumbprints, that's 7 billion different soul prints. And that means we are going to be a little bit different than other people. And so sometimes it can feel like it's pushing against also our desire to belong, to feel connected to other people. Because when we see people who are unique, they're different than everybody else, so where do we fit in? So I'm going to share my story a little bit, as I have been. Started last week. It's a 3-part series that came from having an aneurysm. Because the way I look at it is this journey of becoming who we are, of really discovering who we are. We've always been who we are, just the discovery process of who we are is like a mystery. We're all in our own detective novel, and we are the detectives, and we're discovering who we are, and this aneurysm has given me a break in the case of who Harriet is. So it's a new, I'm like, oh, this is great, another clue. And we use this information. I'm sharing it because I may not be alone in the struggle to know who I am. Now, there are some of you who may be here who have sort of effortlessly been who you are most of your life, and I celebrate that. And so if this may not speak to you, if that's true, I ask you to listen to it till you may know someone who is struggling to know who they are. And if you are someone who's struggling to know who you are, I hope this in some way lets you know that you're not alone, that there's many of us who have been struggling to know who we really are. In fact, I just saw a little snippet from Red Table Talk that for tomorrow. It's with Alicia Keys. And the little snippet was, for those of you who don't know, Alicia Keys is a Grammy-winning singer, songwriter, incredibly talented musician and beautiful woman. And she said, I realize I've been dealing with issues of self-worth. that I'm just not worthy. So here's someone who's talented, win awards, money, success, beauty, and she's dealing with self-worth issues. Because what we are learning as we go on this journey is our worth does not come in relationship to other people. Our worth does not come from anything external to us. Who we are has to be really anchored in the oneness that, as we hear over and over from all the mystics, is found within. So last week I shared my journey in the hospital of having the aneurysm. I'm not going to revisit that. To me, the crux, the greatest message from that experience was not to compare myself to anybody else. That when I was in the surgery, I had an experience of being with the divine presence. There was no form. It was just light until there was that. I couldn't even see that, but there was just a feeling of being absolutely naked, and naked in terms of I had no labels. I had nothing to identify with. This is who I am. I just felt utterly me, which I recognize I've been my whole life. We all have been who we are our whole life. It's not hiding somewhere. We don't have to go find it. It's right here. It's always been here. And I was that I am, and the I am presence that was with me totally and completely loved me. It saw all of me in my individuality as well. There was an individuation in the I amness. I can't explain it humanly. There was no relative. There's no good, bad, better, worse, up, down, all the ways that we tend to describe ourselves, whether in relation to other people, in relation to what we believe. All of that was gone. For those of you who don't know, I had an aneurysm, and it only really worked on my language. I was losing my sense of language, and I definitively know that we are not our words, that our thought, even our thoughts, those are all things of this world. Thoughts are things that we play with in this world, but when we start transcending to worlds beyond this, we're operating at a much different level. And what I discovered is that I was fine in who I am, just as I am. That there may be things I want to develop or bring forth, but it's all from the I am. It's not a sense of less than. And that when I came back, the thing that I really got was how much I have, and I think many of us do, live my life relative, comparing myself to other people, comparing myself to other people's ideas, thoughts, feelings, their success, their non-success. That comparing ourselves, the whole idea of judgment is it's relative to something else. You can't judge something if you don't have anything to judge it against. So we live in this world of comparison and judgment, and that true freedom was to let all of that go. For those of you who weren't here last week, the experience also in that relationship with the divine, there was nothing else around. There was no other beings around. It was just the divine and I, and nothing was missing. It wasn't like, where is everybody else? And we won't get into theology, but the whole of the universe, the entire being was right there where one of the great philosophers said, we are the center of the universe where there is no circumference. Every person is the center of the universe where there is no circumference. So there was nothing else. There was just this, you could say Plotinus said it's the flight of the alone to the alone, but I didn't feel lonely. It was just us. So when I came back, I felt the power of that, of just being in my own energy, in my own vibration, not relative to anybody else. And I was absolutely clear when I was in the hospital, this is all that matters to me. When I go back to life, this is all that matters to me, is I want to wake up and live from this place as much as I possibly can. So then I came home from the hospital, and I was sort of flying high on this wonderful energy, and I was just ready to go. I wanted to go. And I came home, and I realized with my headaches and my just tiredness, I couldn't go the way I wanted to go. And it was a little bit hard to figure out. When I broke my foot, I had a cast for 6 weeks. I could see it, but I can't see this, and the only way I know I can't go is I get these terrible headaches. So I couldn't move as fast as I wanted to move. But I also then realized I had the very, not difficult, but maybe inspiring question of, well, I'm ready to go, but to do what? To be what? There was this deep sense in me is I did not want to waste any more time. I was tired of wasting time. And part of what I was wasting my time on was worrying that I wasn't good enough. Am I alone here? Is there anyone who worries that you're not good enough? Oh, great. So I'm just going to share my own personal, but it's not about, I know my story, I'm sharing it to hope, so you know you're not alone, and hopefully to inspire you to look and see if you can accept yourself more in your own journey, as I'm learning to do for my own. It's easy why I didn't feel like I knew I belonged as a kid, because I was deeply spiritual in a sort of atheist agnostic family, so there was a sense of, I loved my family, loved my friends, but we never talked about God. That was not part of my world. So it's easy to see why I didn't feel like I belonged there. But then I found myself on the spiritual path, and one of the challenges, and maybe some of you have felt this too, of being on the spiritual path is I never fully fit in any one place. I liked a lot of different things. My first initiation into New Thought was Joel Goldsmith, who is what I consider a New Thought mystic. If you've never read him, I offer you, the best book is Practicing the Presence. Beautiful book, and sort of New Thought mysticism. So he was my introduction to New Thought. Then I found Ernest Holmes through Science of Mind, Reverend Michael, who is, in my mind, a mystic. Then you have Ernest Holmes, and there's some differences. And because I was sort of introduced to New Thought through Joel Goldsmith, they have a very different style. And you can always tell in classes, people who have read Joel Goldsmith, well, how do you... So I liked Ernest Holmes, but I also liked Joel a lot. And I liked Reverend Michael, and the two guides who asked me to be a minister were Yogananda and Shunryu Suzuki, so I was learning from them. And they have a very different style, Eastern style, from the Western style. And I found I tended, because they were my initial teachers, often were very influenced by initial teachers, I was very influenced by what they were wanting to do, which was to ascend. So Ken Wilber helped me understand this, that there tends to be, we do all of it. First of all, let's say we're all of it. I'm never saying anyone is one thing. We just tend to resonate with some things more than others, but we're all of it. So Ascension spirituality is a desire to wake up to the truth of who and what we really are, and that's the entire goal. The entire goal is to live, move, and have our being in, through, and as pure spirit, and to walk around as conscious and awake in that vibrational frequency with no attachment to the earth at all, because that will just happen. That'll just flow. Seek first the kingdom of God, all things shall be added unto you. And that's the entire intention. Western spirituality tends to lean more towards that is absolutely important, but it's often a means to make my life better. So my life is flowing better. So my physical health is better, my relationships, my finances. And now it's even evolved past that. It's not just my life, it's the world's life. So it's moved into causes. How can we be vehicles to allow this divine spirit to make this world a world that works for everyone? And so we have these two ways of being spiritual, and what I started to recognize is I was both, but I was a little bit more the Eastern. I was more drawn to wanting to ascend, to wanting to know my oneness. I did want to serve, but I didn't have a huge desire for my own self to manifest things or to create a new life. That's just the way I was built. But I'm in a teaching that talks a lot about that. And I started to feel very uncomfortable. Someone even said to me, "Why are you becoming a minister of this teaching?" Sorry. But they had a point, but I would feel the same way if I was in the Eastern teaching, and I'd be like, why aren't you more worried about what's happening in the world? No matter where I was going to complain. So, but the reason why I became a minister of this teaching, why I love it, and where I resonate with Ernest Holmes is he was an integrator of many paths, and I like to integrate a lot of paths. And I love that there's these universal principles that you can apply, everyone can apply to your own unique path. So there's a base of understanding principles, and then everyone gets to apply it individually. So I really, really like that. And then as I started going on, I recognized, yes, and generally the people who become ministers of CSL really, really, really love Ernest Holmes. And I really do like Ernest Holmes, but I also like a lot of other people, and I have a hard time focusing on one person. Reverend Susan Overland spoke here twice, and I was thinking she probably talked about Ernest Holmes and Science of Mind more in her 2 talks than I ever have in 6 years. And it was great. I took all my classes. I know it, but it's not my thing. So where do I belong? It's not where do I belong, I'm not enough. Even though I could say who I was, and people who know me, I had no trouble saying who I was. Well, and then let me just say the 2 places where I felt a little different. I just had a hard time really stepping into it. And that's really what the point of today's talk is it's not that we don't know who we are, but we have a hard time fully giving ourselves to it because we know it's a little bit different than what our friends are doing, or maybe what our community is doing, or what our family is doing. And so we don't fully step in and accept our own individual way. There are 7 billion individual ways on this planet right now. And part of this mystery is that it's scary because once we start stepping into our own individual path, there's nobody who's taken it before us. We can't follow anybody else on this path. I can't say, well, this is the way they did it, because I'm following my own path. So there's a darkness. And if you look at mystics, the dark night of the soul, there's different types of dark night of the soul, but it's always part of that sense of, I'm not quite sure where I'm going because I have no one to follow but this divine presence within me. And it's a little bit scary, so I'm just going to do what everyone else is doing because that fits and it works. It all works. It's all good. But finding our own individual path, am I going to get a little bit lonely? I don't even want to talk to you about my path because they have a little bit of a different path than my path. How do I feel connected? We'll get back to that. So then, that was one way that I felt different. And another, and I've shared this. So I grew up in a very academic family, have a total resistance to it. I think, felt I didn't like school. I felt people who were academic spent too much time in their heads and were disconnected from their hearts and their bodies and their souls. So I had a whole bunch of judgments about it. And then there's these 4 paths of God in Hinduism. Most of you probably know of them. Love, devotional practice. There's karma, service, like Mother Teresa would be service, like devotion. She was doing devotion in service, so that was her main thing. Then there's Raja Yoga, which many of us here know. That's direct experience. So that's any type of meditation practice, mindfulness meditation, Zen meditation, prayer that gives us direct contact, yoga, qigong, tai chi. These are all having the direct contact with pure spirit. So and then there's the reflective. And because all my teachers tended to be the Raja Yoga, teaching the experiential, and I absolutely loved the direct contact. I've had plenty. Of the 4 paths, there's the reflective, often thought of as knowledge, but I don't like using that word because you can just gain knowledge and it has no impact on your inner life at all. It just means you know a lot of information. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a reflective that changes you, that in that reflecting of it, it sort of courses through your body, and it becomes alive. And as I was reading the description of the reflective, I was recognizing, oh my gosh, that's who I've been my whole life. I've hated it, and now I'm saying, I can't help but reflect. I take a paragraph and I just reflect on it. And in fact, I was recognizing that I had a lot of mystical experiences in this process of reflection. Even at this moment where I'm recognizing this is who I am, the world's just open up. I'm in another dimension. The walls just dissolve. I'm around light. I see the people out on the street. There's no separation between me and them. And then it just keeps going on. And at night, there's like this truth and all this rain shower pouring over me of truth. And later on, as I was reflecting on it, I'm thinking, Spirit really wanted me to get this because I have a lot of resistance. So it really needed a big, fireworks, get this. And I did. I thought, anyone here who knows me, I said, oh, yeah, I'm a reflective personality. I didn't resist that I like to read books and I like ideas. But I did. I still resisted it. I looked at ministerial school. I was so mad at ministerial school because I wanted a mystical ministerial school. I purposely didn't go to a traditional Berkeley or Harvard Divinity School because I was so academic. I wanted the direct experience, the direct contact. I wanted the Raja Yoga. I wanted a ministerial school that really delved deeply in the practice of knowing God. And instead they just started a new program with me, and they really wanted us to be equal to universities. So of course, suddenly and it changed just the year I got there. It wasn't that way when I joined in, but the year I got there, it became this highly academic. We were writing papers and reading books, and I am raging at God. This is exactly what I didn't want, and here you brought me. I never really thought that I was actually pretty good at it, and it came pretty effortlessly to me, and we get engaged. But no, I don't like this. Because even though I had that experience, I still didn't really fully realize that this was a way for me to know God. I still had so many resistances to it. And then along my journey, I can't tell you how many people, I'm very devotional too. I have a very strong devotional life, so I can share from that place. But I also do like the intellect. And I realized I was getting a little bit embarrassed about it, because when I would start teaching from my excitement of a very sort of complex, heady idea, people would say, oh, here, you just, first of all, I'd see the eyes glaze over. And then people go, oh, you're just too heady. And since I've had that judgment my whole life, it was like the worst thing someone could say to me. You're so heady. Like, oh, no, I'm not. I'm heart. I love God. No, I don't. So I had so I accepted it, but what I've discovered is I did all on my own. It was something I did privately. It wasn't something to be shared because people don't like it. So that's the history. So I'm back from the hospital trying to figure out, okay, I'm going to go out and be a minister. Well, how am I going to be a minister? And this whole realization that I really just want to wake up to the truth of what I am and support others in waking up. I'm like, you know what? I'm not wasting time anymore. That's who I am. That's the type of ministry I want to do. But then there's also this part of the reflective. And I started having this argument with my beloved, because I am devotional, about this head part of me, because I want to be of service. And, well, first of all, I just had an experience that the aneurysm that started to bleed, it only impacted one aspect of my life, and that's thought. It didn't impact me at all physically. It didn't impact me any other way other than thought. So it's almost like Spirit's trying to give me a message. I don't know. And the experience was so beyond thought. Like, I was so clear I'm not thought anymore, because I couldn't think, but I was still fully myself. So when I came back, I'm like, I'm ready to go. I don't know what to do with this part of me that likes to think, because I realized deep down I think it's a waste of time. That I can think about all these complex things and enjoy it and get filled by it, but who cares? First of all, most people don't seem to be that interested, one. And two, the simplicity, to know and wake up to Spirit is a very simple process. Be here now. Be in the moment. Be present to our feelings. Watch our feelings. Live our life if you're in a devotional, you live your life for the divine presence. However you want to do it, it's very, very simple, and I like to make it very, very complicated. But I had to admit that this was part of my makeup. As I've said, I've been this way my whole life. So why? I'm like, Spirit, I want to be of service to you, but the thing that I seem to like doesn't seem to be it's not very important, it's not very needed. I just happened to had saved months ago this guy named Callistos Ware. And Callistos is a term in Greek Orthodox. I'm not sure what it means. He holds some high position in Greek Orthodoxy. He's a bishop of some kind. He's in his 80s. And he's giving these lectures. And I always thought, well, I should listen to this, but he's kind of dry, so I never did. But I'm really low-key at this point, so I'm just listening to him. And I love what he's saying. It's really profound. It's exactly what I was saying. It's a lot of complication, making very simple things complicated. And I liked it. I don't always agree with it. That's part of people like me. We don't always agree with it. That's why I was arguing with people. But that's all in the realm of thought. So I'm thinking, but I like it, but what good is he doing? And I realize he's serving a group of people on this planet Earth. It's not about necessarily the next state, but that he's serving a group of people like me who need to understand things. I am someone who just am built, I want to understand things. I like to understand the way the universe works. I like to understand how it interacts with our world. I want to understand things. And that's where I feel deeply connected with Ernest Holmes, because I think he just wanted to understand things. I feel deeply connected to Ken Wilber. He wants to understand things. There's just this desire, mental desire to help, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's for the next stage, but I'm here now, and I need to be of service, and I just have to be me. I can't be someone else. There's 7 billion people. You all take care of the other stuff. We all have something that we're called to. And the reading that we did today by Testimony of Light, you may have recognized, we did it last week too. It's the only time I've ever done a reading twice, 2 weeks in a row, because there's so much I'm going to post. I posted on Facebook last week. I'll post on this, because it's really a profound reading on this discovery of being yourself. And one of the scariest things I've noticed for people is that free will is an illusion because we already are who we are. It's not like we choose. I can't choose to be, well, I tried to choose. I could be, first of all, we're all four paths, but I can't choose not to be a reflective person. It's just who I am, and I can fight it all I want or push it down or be embarrassed by it or judge myself for it, but I'll always be hurting myself every time I do that. That I was already made this way. For whatever reason, I am this way, and this journey of being you is discovering you've always been who you are. Is there a place where you're not accepting for whatever reason, because your family's a certain way, because the philosophy that you're in doesn't fully agree with it, the religion, your company, your partner, your children, your parents? For me, it was just culture. It wasn't anyone was telling me to be different. It was just this culture that I was in, this saying that the way I am wasn't very important. And I got that, I already felt that way because, and then, so when people reaffirmed that to me, you're too heady, you're too intellectual, that was just a hunker down. Don't go there, freak people out. I started writing a blog. I made it as simple as possible because I don't want to go in there because I don't want to be rejected again for being who I am, for liking the things that I like. And I like the simplicity too. I'm not saying that I don't. And I do have a devotional life. Did I say that? But I'm sharing this struggle not to only share about me, but to share about you. Because this struggle that we have is a rejection. It's not the mystery process is not about something hidden under a stone. It's right there in front of our eyes. That's what amazed me as I was in this experience. It's always been there. We always have been who we are. We're just not seeing it because of our own. I'm giving you my context, my predisposition, but everyone here has your own stories. Stories really can block us. The stories we tell ourselves, they can really block us from seeing who we really are. We have our own stories about who we are. That we, like I said, and the reason why I recognize if this is hard for me, because some people have said, I just wish I had a mystical experience, or I was told this is who you are in the biggest way possible, and I still couldn't accept it. I would say I'm reflective, but I still was rejecting so much of it. And I figure if I'm doing that, and I've had so many gifts telling me who I am, and I'm still rejecting myself, if Alicia Keys, who's had this amazing success, is still rejecting herself, there must be something very hard when we're on this planet to really claim and accept our own uniqueness, because it does begin to separate us from other people. So that's where I want to end today, is that we also want to belong. And so a big reason why I was rejecting it, because I want to belong. I wanted to belong with my colleagues, my ministerial colleagues, and I recognized I had a slightly different take on things than they did. I want to belong with my community, my friends, my family. I want to belong. So this whole process of individuation, the mystical process, deepens me in my relationship with God, and it feels very rich in my own little world by myself. But sometimes it's hard to translate a sense of belonging in the external world. I'll give you one other way where I feel a little different, because I'm sharing these because it may resonate with some of you. I have many teachers who I love: Ramana Maharshi, Sri Aurobindo, Yogananda, Shunryu Suzuki, Julian of Norwich, Joel Goldsmith, Ernest Holmes, Michael Beckwith. I have incredible teachers. And to me, they're all part of my one teacher, who is Jesus. But I'm afraid to say that. So when I say personally, I'm talking to my divine beloved, I'm talking to Jesus. All my teachers are wrapped up in Jesus, the Christ consciousness, not just the human person. And I recognize, so that's one way that already I don't share fully because I don't want to push people away, because I know a lot of people have stuff around Jesus, so they don't want to go to this isn't a Christian church. This isn't about studying the Bible, but it's just my own particular path. So what I'm asking you is, there ways that you kind of hide who you are because it might go against the people, not go against, you don't want to offend. It's not even go against sometimes. You just don't want to offend. You don't want to push somebody away because you want belonging. You want to feel connected. And if I'm doing something that pushes pushes someone else's buttons. I don't want to do that. I don't want to push anyone's buttons. I want to feel connected with everybody. So how do we feel this incredible depth of belonging, which I think all of us crave? That's part of this oneness, to feel the depth of our oneness, and yet really allow ourselves to be very unique and be able to share our uniqueness without offending or pushing anyone else away. That's for next week. It is, because it is about, next week is about integration. But I do want to say this, that I'm discovering more and more, and this is a constant discovery. The more I say yes to myself, the more I feel more comfortable with other people. That there was a little bit of a resistance, the rebelliousness towards others, because I felt I had to be myself. But the more I just accept that this is who I am in the divine, and this is only my relationship between me and the divine, the more I relax about what other people are doing. The more I relax about other people, although I do get a little bit spiky when people push their way on me, but because we don't want to push our way. Our way is our way, and we don't have to feel like we belong so we don't have to make other people follow our way. That's something we do also to feel like we belong. We do our own thing. I actually start to become more relaxed in who I am by accepting other people. And we'll go more into that next week. The last point I want to bring out, what was so beautiful about this experience, about learning to become myself. And I shared this last week, and I just want to re-emphasize this, because it is, to me, there's an absolute message that Spirit was giving me through this process. And since you're me, and we're all in this community together, I feel it's all of our message. When I was with the divine, just the incredible intimacy. It was so personal. It was so much. I talk about my divine beloved, and in this moment, it wasn't Jesus. There was no names. That's all the form, all our concepts that come around. There was no name. Jesus is the form through which I connect, but in that higher state, there's no form, there's no name, but it was intimate. It wasn't the divine presence was now with me. It was like a lover who knew everything about me, and I knew it. And there was nothing between us. There was nothing that separated us. There was just this passionate love. And for me, that is the place and the happiness and the joy of discovering who we really are and being willing to accept it. It's hard to accept if we feel like we're outside of a community or it rejects us. But the more we know that we are in divine communion with that whole source, then we realize we're one with everybody. My example of that is Brother Lawrence. Brother Lawrence, there's a book, many of you may have read it. If you haven't, I suggest I offer to you. It's called Practicing the Presence. Brother Lawrence, so there's a lot of saints and mystics who we know because of their writing or because of something they've done or said. Brother Lawrence wasn't like that. He was a humble guy. His job when he went to become a monk was to work in the kitchen, and that's what he did. That was his job, was working in the kitchen. What he was working on all the time was being prayer without ceasing. That was his practice, prayer without ceasing. And there's, again, just the whole what we're talking about today, in giving his entire being to the divine presence, he started to become so unique that the reason why we have the book Practicing the Presence is because they started realizing, who's this guy in the kitchen? He's very different than everybody else. He really started to become that beautiful uniqueness that we all are on this path to become. And so they went and he started talking to him about what his practice was. He didn't reach out to anybody. He wasn't preaching. He wasn't writing books. He was just being himself, loving God. And the thing that he said, which I think is so beautiful, and this goes back to our individuality and our belonging, is in his prayer practice, everything was God. So it wasn't God and. That's one of the things Joel Goldsmith says. There's not God and something else. There's not God and you. There's not God and me. If I'm practicing and giving myself to my divine beloved, all of you are my divine beloved. All of you are the face of my divine beloved. Every situation I am is my divine beloved. Every task, so he would be in the kitchen, every task that he did, that was his divine beloved. Everywhere he went, the only thing he was doing was being in relationship with his divine beloved in everything he ever did. And when we start operating and living from that place, we suddenly realize we are one with the world at the deepest level possible, that our uniqueness is absolutely impossible to separate us from our oneness, because our oneness and uniqueness are the absolute same. Not one, not two, as Shunryu Suzuki would say. So this is the journey of becoming a mystic. Becoming a mystic is not simply about knowing our oneness and becoming this bland one being that we're all sort of the same. Becoming a mystic is about becoming yourself in such a unique way that you will not see yourself in that unique way mirrored in other people, and yet you will see yourself in all people. You'll be living from a whole other state. There's acceptance, there's peace, there's no comparison, there's no better or worse, because you are fully living in the wholeness and the perfection of pure spirit as you. So my invitation this week is just to be with all of this. Look at who you are. Look if there's any part of you that you don't fully accept, if there's some part of that you have rejected, if there's some parts of your story that you haven't incorporated into who you are today, because it's all included, there's nothing that's left out. In fact, what I would say from this experience, so many other things have made sense to me now, other visions and revelations, like, it's been like a real, bless you, it's really been, it fills us. Who we've been has filled every aspect, every corner of our life. There's never a part in our life where who we are has not filled. So be with that. Is who you are filling every part of your life? Are you completely 100% giving yourself to you, not to what anyone else thinks you should be doing, not how you should be as a spiritual being, but to you, to your style, to your way? Because I just want to say, even as I'm a reflective, other people here might be reflective, but we'll be reflective in two totally different ways. That's a label. Who we are is not a label. So when I'm saying be who you are, I was using a label as a reference, but there's no reference point here, and it's an infinite and eternal journey. We're never ending, so those of you who are really good at it, you're just going to get better at it. Y'all with me? Because we deserve to know that we are enough. That's what we're here for. So let's go into prayer. And prayer is another way where we just get to have that direct contact. I'll get it. God's calling us. Be you. There's nothing else to do but be you. And to know who that is. To really investigate and be on this wonderful discovery as detectives on who am I today. Be that detective. Because it's important. That's why we're here, is to discover who we really are as individuals. So we begin always in that discovery process with taking our attention away from the multiplicity, from all the various forms and ideas and concepts and ideas. We turn our attention away from that and we go simply into that presence and that power that is right here and right now. That is beyond all words, that is beyond all senses, beyond all feeling tone. And those moments where we can leave language and words and senses, we have touched heaven. We have touched this divine presence that is always present. It doesn't come and it doesn't go. We don't need to earn it. We don't need to get a reward. It is already and always right here and right now, ready for us to recognize it is our full and glorious life right here and right now and always for all eternity. So we willingly invite it in. We welcome it into our awareness. Remembering that we don't need to do anything. We don't need to make anything happening. It already is. It doesn't need anything from us. We don't need to do anything to help it along. It is right now. You can feel your breath going in and out, and knowing that it is a space in between every breath, even as it is every breath. It's impossible to breathe and be present to the breath and be in the future, because the breath is never in the future and the breath is never in the past. It's right here, right now. And who we are is even beyond our breath. When we are in that oneness, we let go of everything. So if you can, as much as you can in this moment, be willing to let go of everything. Notice any attachments that you have. Notice anything that you resist. And if you are able and feel safe, be willing to release them and simply be. These places, this joy starts to bubble forth, this delight of pure beingness. All consciousness is delight, is joy, is bliss, and that is what we are made in the image and likeness of, is this wonderful bliss, this extraordinary love. All of these are just concepts, but we can actually experience the love, the joy, and the peace. Every moment where we are willing to let go of everything. And as we let go of everything and we feel and touch and connect with this eternal, infinite peace, joy, and love in the center of our beingness, we may feel a little longing. And that longing is to express something. See if you can feel that longing anywhere in your body. We all have different central places, your heart, your third eye, your lower chakras, sacral chakra. Just find a place that is feeling that longing to express, to be. Maybe it's multiple places, your entire body, your entire being. You don't need to do anything, just recognize that it's there. It's not a desire to get anything, because you already have everything. You already are everything. It's a desire to express something deep and profound that is actually beyond words. It is from the causal level, first cause. It already exists. You're not making it happen. You're not doing anything. It just exists. It's always existed your entire life. And give it permission to be breathed into this form, into this awareness of the human realm. Feel into your I amness, your unique I amness. Let it start to pulsate and vibrate in your physical, emotional, mental, energetic body. Again, you're not making it happen, you're allowing it, you're making it welcome into your beingness. This divine expression that only you are. And today we don't worry about anyone else in this moment, we just say yes to who we are, knowing that who we are is enough. Really open up to that idea that who you are is enough. We don't need to add on to you. We don't need to add anything else on. Who you are is enough, just as you are right now. This beautiful, unique emanation of pure spirit. There's nothing you need to do to prove that you're enough to God or to anyone else. There's nothing you need to say to be enough. You are already enough. Who you are is enough. The uniqueness that you are is enough right now. And as we feel into this, we allow this uniqueness to express as it wants to express for the rest of our day. And as we continue to nurture and open to it and say yes to it for the rest of this week, for the rest of this month, for the rest of our life. That we are each here a unique gift here to fully express from the I amness, this unique I amness that has always been us. And we say yes to it. We love it. We accept it. We embrace it. We celebrate it as it speaks its word out into the world and does what it needs to do in the actions that it wants to take out of its pure essence of being. However that is for us, we say yes to it. We embrace it and nurture it and just witness the beauty and the power of our own unique self. It does not need to be quelched to make ourselves fit in with other people. We already belong to the entire universe, to the entire cosmos. We belong. We are accepted. We are here now. We are one with all life as our unique self. We are connected with all life. People, plants, animals, all history, all the past, and all the future. We are that which is I am that I am right here and right now is our unique being. It is all one, and we get to celebrate this all day today. We get to live in this non-dual reality where everything is just as it is meant to be, and we are as we are meant to be in all of our beauty and all of our generosity of heart, of our laughter and our joy, of that deep peace that resides beyond all human understanding. This is who we get to be all week long. Praise the Divine Spirit. Praise God. Thank you, thank you, thank you for the infinite love intelligence that all of us are in this room, in all life. We see the divine beloved in every face of God, in every face that we see, in all the news that we hear on the television or the radio or people are talking about, in the environment, in the animals, in the plants, in everything that is unfolding. We see one thing, the divine presence, the divine love that we are and I am. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Divine Presence, for being conscious and awake and celebrating yourself in all these diverse and unique, magnificent ways. This is the most beautiful place to be. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And in deep and abiding gratitude, we release this word. We let it be. And in divine peace, joy, and everlasting grace, we let this word be and say together, and so it is. Amen and amen.
And so it is. And so it is, and so it is, amen. 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 And so it is.
Amen and amen. You can come up.